Hi guys, Gervase here, your host for the Modern Phoenix podcast. I hope you guys are watching us. I know you can watch us on Spotify, and it's very cool. I've had quite a journey with video as an entrepreneur, and it's always just felt so fun and natural to me, maybe because I was a theater kid, but watch it. Tell me how you like. Do you like watching it, or are you a listener? Anyway, I want to tell you a story. I knew I wanted to record a podcast today, and I had this like pretty intense outline on overfunctioning, and it just was like not feeling like the vibe. I just wanted to come to you with some more personal stuff. When I get too professional for too long, I need to swing the pendulum, get a little bit more personal, because this is personal to me. This work is personal to me. This community is personal to me. My clients are, like a beloved a part of my circle. My friends listen to this. My life is my inspiration for my work and also my healing and also this podcast. So I decided, screw the whole plan. And I want to tell you a story about how, just like a quick anecdotal story about my daughter, to give you an example of how offering yourself a little bit of pleasure as a resource when you're doing something hard is one of the best ways to work with your nervous system patterns. It's one of the best ways to have a flexible, resilient nervous system and not get stuck in, let's say, fight or flight. So there's two examples here. One is a client and one is my daughter. So let's start with my daughter. So literally before I recorded this, what inspired it is I have a lot going on today. My daughter is home sick from school. That always feels like a little bit of a stressful juggle, if you know, you know. And she's kind of bored. She's looking for direction. And the dishwasher broke, because that's fun, a couple days ago. And without the dishwasher, getting our ritual of the kitchen clean just stopped. And I was single parenting, and I was like, I'm just going to deal with this tomorrow. And then tomorrow was yesterday. And then we ran one load of the dishwasher. And like, again, if you know, you know, there's just a shit ton of dishes in my kitchen. It's like a bomb went off, and we just need to like play catch up, but nobody really has the bandwidth to focus on that right now because it's just not the most important thing. However, I got this 8-year-old home who's super bored and needs a project. So I was like, wait a minute. Hey, Maya, why don't you put all these dishes in the dishwasher? You need to hand wash these ones, put these ones in the dishwasher. Granted, like, I know this isn't going to be done perfectly, but I literally don't care. And I was like, I'll pay you $2. Child slavery wages. And so she said yes. So, give this a try. But it was really interesting because she's very easily distracted. She's not intrinsically very motivated. Like, I have one like super type A, very intrinsically motivated and extrinsically motivated. But Maya kind of like beats to her own drum, which I obviously relate to. And I'm kind of surprised because she just steps up to the sink, which looks like a dump, and she just starts doing it. She does it for maybe 2.5 minutes. And then she like looks around and she looks at me and she goes, how am I going to do this? Which is just so relatable. If you are a human with a kitchen, you can relate to this moment. And she looks at me and I'm like, I know. I feel that way every single night when you guys go to bed and me or daddy takes turn doing this. And she's like, I don't want to do this. And she starts to take the gloves off, like, I'm not going to do this. This is too hard. It's going to require too much. I'm out. And immediately I was like, hold on. Is there something you can do to make this experience a little bit more enjoyable and not quit? This question is my question to you for literally everything in life. Because what we tend to do is we get our nervous systems into these janky, like, I'm going to go all in, overfunction, overgive, overdo, be so disciplined and ritualistic and productive. Or I'm going to swing the pendulum. I'm going to quit. I'm going to give no fucks. I'm going to tap out, check out, numb out, cancel, disconnect, not talk to that person ever again. It's this or that. Sides, right? Pick a side. And instead, I was like, can I give you a suggestion? What I do to get through the misery of cleaning the kitchen every night is I pop in some headphones and I listen to music or a podcast or a book on tape. I was like, do you want to put on headphones and listen to music while you clean? She looks at me and she's like, She goes and gets her headphones. She goes back to the sink. And that is where I left her. And I had this idea, and I was like, I'm going right now to record this podcast without an outline, because this is it, right? This is like the work in real life. And this to me is what I'm so much more interested in than like too much information and jargon and diagnostic material that gets you even more in your head about things and feeling more helpless about how to, make gradual shifts in your life. And what I have noticed is asking myself and my kids and my clients this question has become the North Star of my life, my mothering, my practice. And what I have found personally, and as a mother and as a coach, is this has been the thing that shifts all of our nervous systems from I'm so overwhelmed that I'm not going to do the dishes at all. I am so overwhelmed that I am going to quit my job. I am so overwhelmed that I am never talking to that person again. Into, okay, I'm still overwhelmed, but what is one thing I can do to bring a little bit of resource, a little bit of pleasure, a little bit of enjoyment to this activity that will keep me in the game a little bit more? Not because I'm pushing through, I'm actually tending as I go. And I have spoken about this. I think you're probably sick of hearing me talk about it because it's like a different way of saying the same thing I'm always saying. But it's this idea of resourcing as you go, maybe getting curious when you notice patterns in yourself of fight or flight or freeze or fawn. Can you get curious? How can I stay with this thing and not fight, but bring in a little bit more joy, a little bit more pleasure, a little bit more safety, a little bit more connection? And of course, that looks a lot of different ways. So then I'm going to give you this example of one of my clients. She's been working through a little bit of, a couple things. And one of them is leaving her job. That's a big question. That's going to have a big answer. It's going to require a lot of untangling and certainty and looking at things from many sides and really feeling into what is right for you, your next right move. And it was really interesting because through a process of questioning, we got to this place where she realized it would be easier for her to quit her job and walk away than it would be to stay but give a little less. I'm going to say that again for the high-functioning achievers in the back. It is easier to quit the job, code flight, than it is to stay, code stay with it, stay in the game, while giving less of herself to the job. We actually define this as stay in the job, but give a few less fucks. I think that was her. I don't think I coined that. I think she said that and I repeated it. I think there's so much wisdom and information here. And if none of it was bad or wrong, it's all just data. Like, I'm just like, I could just like explore this all day. It's so exciting. We uncovered this pattern that wanted to run, hide, flight, or lean all the way in and give 200%. And we realized that it was actually very, very challenging, uncomfortable, terrifying for her to do something in the middle. And to do something in the middle, it requires you to stay. So if we're talking about a job, how do you stay in the game? Bringing back that question from the beginning that I asked my daughter. How do you stay at the job, but bring in a little bit of joy? Bring in a bit of levity, bring in a little bit of relief, bring in a little bit of pleasure. Now, obviously, this question like changes forms because we're not talking about dishes. But can you see how the resource that was needed was actually, can you give a little less? What's it like to stay at your job, but give a little less? This is another way you're bringing in a little bit of resource, but still doing the job to change the neural pathways in your nervous system to see, what does this feel like? I actually don't know. And you deserve to know before you quit your job, because otherwise what my sense was and where she landed in the session was, you can maybe take a sabbatical, or you can quit. I have a feeling this pattern will persist. What we resist persists, right? And so if you, let's say you took a sabbatical because you want that relief, You want to escape. You want to get away from this thing. Naturally, it's overwhelming. It's very demanding. She has a lot of good reasons for, I think most corporate cultures are really totally tone deaf and taking advantage of their employees right now. And it's that pendulum that will right itself over time. And also, the women in these industries, in these organizations, they need to feel really clear on their value, what they have to offer, what they don't have to offer, what feels good to them, that they walk away for a reason that isn't just like, oh, I blew up and I burned it all down, a 20-year career. It really requires thoughtfulness and intention. And so there's nothing wrong if you don't feel ready to work with this pattern in your system, in your behavior, in your choices. And it's understandable if it feels really overwhelming to do alone and like the decision feels too big. And also, it's worth getting curious about if I do what I've always done and swing the pendulum for pushing too hard, giving too much of myself in this area, and then I escape, I flight, and I give nothing. What's going to happen when I come back from sabbatical? Zing! Pendulum swings again to the other direction, which is again fine. There's always time. It's an endless journey of evolving and spiraling around to shift our systems and our patterns and our choices and our behavior and our relationships, etc., and our lives. And nobody gets a prize, right? And these are nuanced decisions. And also, what is it like for you, if you relate to the job thing, and for her to consider, instead of doing what you've always done, which is overgive or run away, stay in the game and ask yourself, how can I make this just a little bit more enjoyable for myself? What would bring in just a little bit of relief here? That part where you can notice your own patterns and ask yourself this question and begin the gentle, compassionate work of curiously tending to your nervous system as you work through something in order to shift the way you behave. This is how I have literally changed how I show up for my job, for you guys, in my mothering, and in my marriage. Big time. Because instead of just throwing up my hands and burning it all down every time things got hard, I stayed in the game. I stayed with my initial intention. How can I be with that intention and bring in 1% more joy, pleasure, relief, resource, support? What might that look like? Knowing there are millions of infinite options. And that's how it's supposed to be. That's the spiraling, winding path of the feminine. That's what's so exciting about this magical way of womaning. You're never stuck. You're never locked in. Nothing is ever the beginning or the end. It's always evolving, and there's always more next right things you can try. There's always millions of chances. Like, we're not playing this linear game, this capitalistic, patriarchal timeline. We're not doing it. We don't need to do it, because we know, like, every moment is a new breath, is a new opportunity to make a new choice, to relate to something differently, to work with a pattern or a sensation or a trigger or an activation or a sense of overwhelm or a sense of defeat in a different way. And there's so many ways to do that. And those are all the things that I teach. And those are all the things I want all of you to know. And the last thing I'll say about this is always start with an intention. In focalizing, we're trained to always begin sessions with an intention. So if you don't have an intention for why you're doing a thing, you can really flounder with purpose and follow through and resilience to stay in the game. So, you can have silly intentions, like my intention is to get the house not looking like a dump today. I don't want to do it. I'm overwhelmed. It's too much. How am I going to do it? Those are natural next thoughts. Okay, but I have this intention. How can I be with this intention, which is what I've previously been describing as how can I stay in the game? How can I be with my intention, even though I feel overwhelmed, even though I feel like I want to, quit or escape it or like lose myself to it or whatever, and I don't want to, again, not to overly pathologize nervous system states, because there's so much nuance in between. And, I'm not even like a nervous system expert, but it doesn't take, a rocket scientist to see how this plays out, right? So even though I feel this certain way in my body, in my system, how can I work with this intention and bring in just a little bit of pleasure, a little bit of joy, a little bit of relief, a little bit of resource, Let me get curious about this. Let me get creative with this. Okay, my intention is get my house clean. Okay. Can I get my kids to help me? Can I put on some music? Can I set a timer? Can I don't know, dance around like Mary Poppins? Make it a game. I don't know. Hire help, whatever it feels like. Can I press the easy button? Like, what are the ways? I literally have so much going on today, and then we have this event tonight. And I was like, oh, I think tonight I'll make Buddha bowls, and I'm going to make some quinoa. I'm going to roast a few vegetables. I'm going to do some chickpeas. And then I was like, what the fuck am I talking about? That is taking up so much space in my brain. And this is not the day to do that. This is the chicken nugget day. This is the easy button day. Okay. I can still fulfill my intention of feeding my kids. And it's actually within my value systems, because I wouldn't have that food in my house if I wasn't okay with my kids eating it. Okay, we're good. I also know endless opportunities to make Buddha bowls. Today, them eating this perfect meal today is not the end all be all. It doesn't matter. Our life is full of like endless choices, chances to choose again. So I'm going to leave you with that. I hope it feels, well, personal, obviously, but also like a concrete and easy, applicable tip you can apply to anything you're working through, any patterns you're working through, intentions that you have, whether it's for your life, your womanhood, your motherhood, your career, your relationships. Getting clear on first, what even is my intention here? And then asking yourself, how can I work with this intention with a little bit more levity, a little bit more pleasure, a little bit more joy, resource? How can I tend as I stay with the intention? And knowing it's okay if maybe I need a break from all of that. And maybe there's going to be pockets where I'm like, I'm out. And I call out of work a few days, or, I take a break from the dishes for 10 minutes and I go lay in the grass, or whatever is your drug of choice. Sunbathing is mine at the moment. I love you so much. Please share this with another woman who needs some tips that are practical, actionable, trauma-informed, nervous system-based, body-based, that allow you to work with the hard parts, the meaty parts, the crunchy parts of being a human in a way that is creative and infinitely optimistic and hopeful, and really creates lasting transformation. I love you so much. If you want to take this work deeper, your first step is to book a Soul Shift Intensive. The link is in the show notes. And if you have any questions about this, or you have a suggestion for a future podcast, could you go ahead and find me on Instagram at Gervase Kolmos? You can find that in the show notes too, GervaseKolmos. Or you can email us at hi@gervasekolmos.com. And I'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you for spending your precious time with me. I know, truly, how valuable your time is. All right, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Ciao.